Well, we already killed Sukuna. Hey guys, don't you think we're forgetting something? What's up, family Blaganti? How are you? I hope you're all doing very well, and I take this opportunity to wish you a Merry Christmas. I don't know when I'll be uploading this video. I hope it's not in January. Time to work like 2G. Today is a very happy day for everyone. We eat until we burst, we share with family, but not so much if you're a fan of Jujutsu Kaisen. You see, on December 24th in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe, on New Year's Eve, it's been 1 year since Daddy Gojo died against his cradle, since they left him like a Kit Kat. So you know, while Jesus was being born, Gojo was being thundered. But anyway, that's not why I'm here. As you may have read in the title, we have a new ending. What's up with mangakas and endings lately? Let me explain. Mangas are compiled into volumes, and these usually come with some changes or extra pages. If you're a One Punch Man fan, you'll be used to this. That manga changes every now and then. They're very indecisive. Even though the Jujutsu manga ended a few months ago, the volume just came out today, which includes a 16-page epilogue where Gigi decided to narrate the fate of the characters after their battle against Sukuna. So today I'm here to talk to you about that, since Gigi, the mangaka who killed more characters than he created, got bitten by the romance bug, and in this new chapter, he threw 2 new couples at us. Oh, and this isn't really related, but I take the opportunity to throw it in. There was a play where they recreated Jujutsu Kaisen in Japan, and well, when Gojo was about to say his words to Geto, they silenced everything, but the Japanese swear up and down that he said because they read his lips. Are the Japanese lying or telling the truth? I don't know, to each their own. Back to Jujutsu Kaisen, what happened? Since when did this cat, who has made us suffer so much, become romantic? I think it has to do with Horikoshi, and no, I'm not joking, it's 2009. They have a good relationship, and even Horikoshi, in his final message, gave a nod to Jujutsu Kaisen by saying Black Flash instead of Flashback. Either that, or they've locked up the real Gigi and replaced him with a mangaka who writes happy endings. Now this has also sparked a debate, as some were expecting an epilogue more focused on answering questions about the story. But as you'll see in Gigi's final comment, it's clear that he was mentally exhausted and admitted that at a certain point in his work, he was overwhelmed, which can easily be verified by looking into the working conditions in Japan. So I understand why he decided on a less information-heavy epilogue, and also because so many things can't be answered in just one chapter. In any case, the best thing would be a spin-off, but that depends on Gigi. We have 4 epilogues, starting with Osawa Yuko. Here, Gigi watched Dallas Naruto movie and said, "Hey, I want that for my manga, you'll see why." It all starts on a snowy night, where Itadori says he likes the snow because fireworks and the sea aren't as special as he thought they were when he was little. I mean, who would think the sea is special? As a kid, I was afraid of it. Itadori says that the snow still has its charm, and Ozawa says she thinks the same. Apparently this Itadori is from high school. Years later, we see Ozawa, who, in the end, didn't die in Shibuya, 2009, as everyone thought. Now she's back home, meaning she's no longer in Tokyo, and she doesn't say she hasn't seen any of her friends. Probably several of them died in the sacrifice games, but she just wants to see Itadori, and just then, he spawns right next to her, putting her on alert like a greyhound. It turns out she came back because since she went to Tokyo, she left her grandfather's house abandoned and wants to fix it up. Ozawa was in the same situation. Her grandmother went to a retirement home and she had to clean it. So, the very clever girl starts a conversation by asking how Itadori did in Tokyo, but Itadori just limits himself to saying he was in Shibuya, to which Ozawa thinks that's where he got those scars, and yes, one of them. Then Itadori asks her what she has been up to, but he already knows because Nobara told him, making Ozawa get her hopes up, thinking that Itadori is interested in her. And suddenly it starts to snow. Ozawa asks him if he likes the snow, and Itadori says yes, especially because he can make snowmen. But Ozawa likes it because it reminds her of the person she likes. I have 2 questions. At what point does Itadori resemble the snow? Did I miss something? Or this has something to do with Mahito's hallucination, where he sees him as a wolf in the middle of the snow. Second, when I saw it starting to snow and the sky turned black, I swear I thought someone had put up a curtain and a fight was about to break out right there, and they were going to roll the credits Michael Bay style. I seriously can't believe this guy is writing romance right after everything we've been through. Her epilogue ends with Nobara saying that she felt like the staircase to adulthood was getting closer, and Megumi says he feels the same, as he's already planning who to leave his family inheritance to. When they mentioned the staircase to adulthood, I remembered that scene with Jake the dog. Could this be a hidden message that Ozawa and Itadori will end up together? I don't know. The second epilogue is about Panda. 2 kids are in a warehouse looking at a panda doll. although the boy says it's a cursed and special body. Treasure from their grandfather. When the girl touches it, she immediately throws it away because it's dirty, and we see it wake up just to confirm that they are Yuta's grandchildren. It turns out that once the incident of the sacrifice games was over, Panda lost his flow of cursed energy because both of his cores were broken thanks to Kashimo. In 2035, when his storage ran out, or so it seemed, he was registered as a cursed object in the Gojo family, which was now owned by Yutakotsu as his representative. Now, in 2080, he moves occasionally, having been locked up for almost 80 years. Now we move on to Nobara's epilogue, where she finally decided to heed the letter Gojo left her and went to look for her mother. I have to say, now I understand where Nobara's good genes come from. Her mother thinks she came to see her, but Nobara makes it clear that she just didn't want to ignore the will of someone she cares about, meaning Gojo. Here, like a good abandoned mother, she tries to act nice, saying, "Oh, I see you've been doing well." Nobara isn't paying attention. In fact, she's really upset with Gojo because he tried to step in to save her relationship with her mother, but he didn't dig deep enough into why they don't get along. Her mother gives her a lecture, saying that she has become a great sorceress, unlike her who had no talent for it. And here Nobara throws in a dagger, saying what you lacked wasn't talent for sorcery, but talent as a mother. Ouch, that must have hurt. I would have been a sorceress with or without you, but you without me wouldn't have stopped being a sorceress, right? God, he's killing her. The old lady has no pulse anymore. And it ends with how pathetic. Did it scare Grandma that much? You see, in case you didn't quite catch what Nobara said, basically her mother didn't want to be a sorceress, but her grandmother pressured her, so she got pregnant. She had Nobara with the sole intention that her mother, Nobara's grandmother, could have a sorceress to educate, and that would allow her to be free. Yusen, yes, a terrible mother and also a cat. And now you'll see it without disgust. He blows the smoke from his cigarette at Nobara, asking if she's done saying what she had to say and that she probably came looking for his approval. But she's not going to get it. She's not going to hear from his mouth a "I'm sorry for back then, you've grown quite a bit," or "You're amazing." Don't expect to create good memories with her either, because she's still the same as before, seducing rich men, getting drunk, and sleeping with any young man who stands in front of her. Her life is quite the party. Don't expect to create good memories with her either, because she's still the same as before, seducing rich men, getting drunk, and sleeping with any young man who stands in front of her. Her life is quite the party. And best of all, she ends by saying that basing her identity on her parents' approval is shameful. I mean, this woman who's almost 40 is arguing on equal terms with her 17-year-old daughter. In fact, Navara herself tells him that his sermon, so to speak, was so light that it seemed like an excuse. In the end, she doesn't care about her approval in the slightest. She just came to see something funny by calling her grandmother. And honestly, what an ugly grandmother. And she's missing an eye. In fact, the eye that Nobara is missing belongs to her grandmother and vice versa. Does her epilogue end with a crack? Could it be that the grandmother killed the mother? Well, being Gege, I could expect that. And finally, we have Oraume's epilogue, which reminds me of Haku's with Zabuza, where a still young Sukuna encounters Oraume, who is surrounded by corpses. Apparently, she can't control her power and freezes everyone when she wakes up, thus killing her parents. Sukuna literally takes him to replace the refrigerator he destroyed. He gives her 2 deer to cool them down so they don't spoil, but Oraume explains that she doesn't know how to control her power. In the end, they sort it out and Sukuna lets him eat the meat he hunted, but Urume is not dirty and cooks everything he eats. When she lets Sukuna try it, he loves it so much that he asks her if she knows how to dismember humans so she can become his personal chef. Are you telling me that the guy who has the power to use fire has never cooked his own food? But well, that's how the story of both of them began. From there, we travel to Limbo, where they're talking, asking why Sukuna didn't freeze when he met him, and he asked the same thing. Didn't you feel cold when you approached me? Now, I want to emphasize a little bit going back to Yuta's grandchildren, and that is that the boy has identical eyes to Maki, and the woman has identical eyes to Yuta. Now, as always, there are some narrow-minded people who won't believe anything unless you show them everything directly and explicitly, claiming that Yuta and Maki didn't end up together and that this proves nothing. First, the last living Zenin was Maki. Unless in some strange way Yuta managed to get Megumi pregnant, it's clear that he had children with Maki. Let's also consider that Maki literally hated everyone, and the only one she was close to was Yuta, and in fact, he's the only man who made her blush. The others disgusted her. It's more than clear that their grandchildren belong to Yuta and Maki. Oh, and also as a detail, the girl is wearing the ring where Rika is sealed as a necklace, just as an extra piece of information. Now, before I do the final analysis, I'm going to read you the final comment from Gege Akutami. It's quite lengthy, so I'm going to skip certain parts that aren't relevant. First, let's start by saying that the Jujutsu Kaisen product was on the market for 6.5, almost 7 years. It includes the serialization of the special numbers, that is, Jujutsu Kaisen 0. Of course, I did my best to get everything I could out of my creations, and after about 3 years of serialization, my personality, which was already quite rough, started to become distracted. Even though I complained that I'm tired of being asked about things that can be found out by searching online, I made some mistakes, but I ended up thinking, well, if something happens, the people around me will find out. Speaking of problems, I think I put a lot of stress on the editorial department and everyone who works at the printing house every week. I apologize a lot for that. Jujutsu Kaisen started working with my first editor, Yamanaka-san, and we immediately got into a forced underground work arc, but he would periodically communicate with me. Here are 2 things to highlight. First, Eakutami admits that he was rude, and then he became very absent-minded, believing that if he missed something or other and did not explain it, someone would warn him. I feel like it's a kind of apology for skipping over certain things he hasn't explained. And then, the second thing is that he practically admits that at some point in his work, he was exploited. Let's continue with the reading. When I started serializing, I took into account that Jujutsu Kaisen was being serialized in a major magazine. I felt like I was trying to do my best to ease the pain of those who read Jujutsu Kaisen and felt hurt. The result of that was me telling myself to shut up. I understand, you just want to be seen as a good person, and I hurt myself. So I stopped trying because that idea was too prideful, and now I understand that it was because of my lack of conviction to put the work I created into the world. I still want to scream out loud, but the root cause of it is my immaturity as a mangaka, so I hold it back. The good thing about Shonen Jump is that the brand image isn't built around the creator, but around the work created, and that allows me to trust myself so that readers can enjoy my manga. I have packaged books that I bought during the serialization, some to study, some just to have on hand because they might make me smarter. This is the ending of Jujutsu Kaisen that I have drawn. To everyone who has supported me, to the people who binge read it when it became popular, to those who read it wanting to see what came next after the anime, to the person who happened to read this last volume, any reason is fine. I truly thank you. We will meet again someday. I truly thank you. We will meet again someday. 3 things to highlight. We know that Gigi has admitted he will continue to release mangas, so this won't be his last work. The second message from this is basically that Gigi didn't believe he was part of Shonen Jump and often underestimated himself, saying that this is probably one of the reasons he couldn't fully explore all his ideas. And the third message is that even after having had such a successful work as Jujutsu Kaisen, he still feels very self-conscious and does not recognize himself as the great mangaka that everyone sees. Wow, Gigi is actually pretty humble, or at least that's what this last message is trying to convey. Now, if you ask me what I thought about this new ending or epilogue, I must say that the winner and the most redeemable part of all this is Panda's epilogue, because it confirms 3 things. Yuta went crazy, Maki became the head of the Gojo clan, and successfully repopulated the Zenin clan. If we talk about the technical side, as I told you at the beginning of the video, it is almost impossible for an epilogue to solve all the doubts that the entire work has, because an epilogue is only a chapter, Yu-san. I'm not saying the Jujutsu Kaisen epilogue is bad, it's weak, it could be more interesting. The snowtrope was unclear. Nobara's epilogue is weak, her mother's issue was only briefly mentioned. What I do find bad is that for an epilogue I find it quite weak. I feel that the story could have been made much more interesting by the editor. For example, I didn't understand that snowtrope very well. Similarly, I find Nobara's epilogue weak because her issue with her mother was never mentioned until Gojo's letters in the last chapter. It would have been better if it included known details, like reuniting with childhood friends or moving in with them, as her friend was crucial, being the last person she remembered when facing death, unlike her mother. The epilogue of Sukuna and Urahume seems fine, though their relationship could have been explored more in the manga. Because her friend was so important that she was the last person she remembered when she was about to lose her life. She didn't remember her mother or care about her until recently. I think the epilogue of Sukuna and Urahume is fine. I feel like their relationship could have been explored much more in the manga chapters, but that opportunity was wasted. I mentioned that at the end of Jujutsu Kaisen, but for me the ending is not the problem as such. But the problem is that in the work there were things that were skipped and not explained well. For example, what will happen to Takaba and the silhouette of Kenyaku. We need to hear more about the story of Uraume and Sukuna, and we need to know more about Takaba's story, which is closely related to Yuta's ancestors and Sukuna himself. But those are lore issues in the story, not problems with the ending itself. For me, Jujutsu Kaisen has been a very entertaining work that I hold a lot of affection for. That said, I don't think it's the best manga of all time. I also don't think a work needs to be the best for you to enjoy it. You can still enjoy it just the same. If you like the ending of Jujutsu Kaisen, be happy and enjoy it. If you didn't like it, well, that's fine too. In fact, let me know down in the comments what you think about the new ending of Jujutsu Kaisen. Did you like it or not? What was missing? I will be reading all of you. With nothing more to say, I'm Gantik. I hope you liked this video. See you in the next one. You can check out other videos on the channel. That's all for today. Bye.